At 03:47 hours on May 21, 2026, a classified intelligence bulletin was fired through the encrypted terminals of the USS Gravely, a flight IA Arleigh Burke-class guided missile destroyer holding position in the southern Persian Gulf. The message was 3 words that made every officer in the Combat Information Center go cold. IRGC zone expanded. It wasn't an accident. It wasn't a misread signal. The Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps Navy had just made the most audacious unilateral declaration in the post-ceasefire standoff, redefining the operational boundaries of the Strait of Hormuz, not as the narrow 33 nautical mile choke point the world had known for centuries, but as a sprawling 500-kilometer strategic crescent stretching from the coastline of Jask in the east to beyond the Greater Tunb Island in the west. In a single stroke, they had claimed jurisdiction over waters that the U.S. 7th Fleet had freely patrolled for 40 years. This was not a defensive posture. This was a kill box. The math was terrifying. Until the U.S.-Israeli war against Iran erupted on February 28th, approximately 25% of the world's seaborne oil trade and 20% of global liquefied natural gas transited the Strait of Hormuz every single day. Now, with that passage under IRGC control, with sea mines confirmed in the navigational lanes, and with armed fast-attack craft swarming the waterway like hornets around a nest, every tanker captain on Earth was making the same calculation. Is this run worth my life? Simultaneously, inside the E-2D Hawkeye battle management aircraft orbiting at 25,000 feet above the Gulf of Oman, a sensor operator flagged a thermal contact. 3 IRGC PACOP III fast-attack missile boats, stealthy, low-profile, and armed with C-802 anti-ship missiles with a 120 nautical mile range, had just departed Bandar Abbas at flank speed. Their transponders were dark. Their course was direct. Their target was a U.S.-flagged commercial tanker entering what the IRGC now called their waters. The countdown had begun. At CENTCOM's Forward Maritime Operations Center in Bahrain, the watch commander didn't blink. He had seen this playbook. Since April 13th, U.S. Navy guided missile destroyers have been running Project Freedom transits threading U.S.-flagged merchant ships through the contested strait under direct naval escort. The previous day, that mission had succeeded, but the IRGC had watched. They had studied the escort geometry, the communication frequencies, and the reaction time. Today, they were gambling that the American rules of engagement, tightened under diplomatic pressure from Gulf partners desperate to avoid an escalation, would give their fast attack boats just enough time and space to intercept. They were wrong about the rules of engagement. 2 minutes after the PACOP III contacts were confirmed, USS Gravely received tactical data uplink through Link 16 from the orbiting Hawkeye. The AN Spy-1D radar was already tracking all 3 boats. The ship's Mark 45 5-inch naval gun rotated on its mount with mechanical precision, acquiring the lead vessel. The destroyers and SLQ-32 V-6 Electronic Warfare Suite SCWIP Block III began flooding the IRGC boats targeting radar frequencies with directed jamming pulses. On the Iranian command screens, the tanker's return vanished, replaced by digital noise. The IRGC boats slowed, they recalibrated, they tried backup frequencies. USS Gravely jammed those too. The long-range acoustic device LRAD was activated next. Across 1,200 meters of dark water, the broadcast cut through the humid Gulf air like a blade. IRGC vessels, this is the United States Navy. You are on an intercept course with a vessel under U.S. Navy protection. Alter course immediately, or we will employ escalating defensive measures. There was a pause of 11 seconds. In a conflict that had already killed thousands and destabilized global energy markets, 11 seconds is an eternity. Then the lead PACOP broke left, the other 2 followed. What stopped them wasn't fear of the Gravely alone. That morning, U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance had stated publicly that the United States was prepared to take military action if Iran did not agree to a nuclear deal. And the IRGC commanders in those speedboats knew their intelligence services had picked up signals of a pre-planned strike package waiting on a hair trigger. Trump had given Tehran a window of 2 to 3 days to reach a deal, and every Iranian naval commander understood that a live kinetic incident today, sinking a U.S.-escorted tanker, killing American sailors, would detonate that window instantly. They had run the calculation. They turned around. But the crisis was far from over. Beneath the surface, the real battle was happening in complete silence. The USS Minnesota, a Virginia-class fast-attack submarine, had been holding station at 400 feet in the Gulf of Oman for 72 hours. Its towed array sonar had been tracking an IRGC-operated Kilo-class submarine, the Yuns that had departed Bandar Abbas 6 days earlier and had gone deliberately quiet, playing the thermal layers of the Gulf to mask its acoustic signature. Soviet-era doctrine, Iranian crew. But patience and silence can be lethal in any language. At 04:19 hours, Minnesota's sonar team detected a transient, the distinctive click of a torpedo tube outer door unsealing. The boat was arming. The solution was already plotted. The American captain didn't fire, he didn't need to. He activated the BQQ-10 sonar in active mode, a single devastating acoustic pulse that tore through the water and hammered the hull of the Yuns as a cathedral bell struck with a sledgehammer. The message required no translation. We know where you are, we've known for days. Choose your next move carefully. The Yuns went cold. No further torpedo activity, no maneuvering. The Iranian crew sat in their steel hull in the dark and understood they were already dead if the American captain decided it. Above the surface, the diplomatic machinery was grinding just as hard. Netanyahu had expressed concern in a tense call with Trump over a new Iran peace proposal drafted by Qatar and Pakistan, arguing the U.S. should continue military pressure on Iran to destroy its critical infrastructure. The Israelis wanted escalation. The Gulf states wanted de-escalation. Washington was holding a live grenade with one hand and a peace treaty with the other. Iran, for its part, was projecting control, announcing that 26 ships had passed through the Strait of Hormuz in the 24 hours preceding noon on May 20th, presenting this as proof that the IRGC was a responsible maritime administrator rather than a paramilitary force holding the global economy hostage. The reality painted a different picture. Hundreds of ships and as many as 20,000 seafarers remained trapped, unable to transit due to the conflict, running low on food and critical supplies according to the International Maritime Organization. Every hour the standoff continued was another hour of slow strangulation for the global energy market. And then came the intelligence report that hit CENTCOM like a thunderbolt. France was preparing to deploy Tiger attack helicopters aboard naval frigates near the Strait of Hormuz, the same platform that had proven devastatingly effective against Iranian drone swarms during exercises in the UAE. Paris was done watching from the sidelines. The Europeans, their economies bleeding from energy disruption, were inserting kinetic capability into a theater that was already saturated with hair-trigger platforms on both sides. Now there were 3 navies, 2 active blockades, 1 nuclear ultimatum, and a 2 to 3 day clock ticking down toward a decision that could reshape the Middle East for the next generation. The question is not whether Iran will capitulate. The question is whether the men inside those speedboats, inside that submarine, inside the IRGC command center in Bandar Abbas, have the discipline to hold their fire for 48 more hours while diplomats in Doha argue over the jurisdiction of a waterway that 20% of the world's oil depends on. Ukraine is destroying Russian refinery capacity at a historic pace. Gaza burns. Now the Strait of Hormuz sits on a knife's edge. Every theater is hot simultaneously. The adversaries have studied American response protocols, and they are probing for the gap. The moment of overextension, the seam between rules of engagement and political, will where a fast boat or a quiet submarine can slip through and change everything. The U.S. Navy tonight is doing what it has always done in moments like this, holding the line with cold, professional precision, making the cost of miscalculation visible in ways that don't require a single shot to be fired. But that calculation has a shelf life. The 48-hour clock is running. What would you do if you were the IRGC commander inside that submarine, target locked by an adversary you cannot see, with a nuclear deal deadline burning down above you? Comment below, stay sharp, stay informed. Because the next 48 hours will tell us whether the rules of the sea still mean what they used to mean, or whether the Strait of Hormuz just became the most dangerous body of water on Earth.